Hi everyone, and welcome back to Farrand Film. We are here once again for phase 3 this time. I've just mentioned to Ollie over the phone on Sunday, because it's been a week, that we've not used any vetoes yet. So I wonder if we're going to use our vetoes this time. But if you're unfamiliar, if for whatever reason this is the first one that you've clicked on, go back and look at the other two that we've done first, because otherwise the screen's already spoiled it for you if you're watching on YouTube. On the podcast, you will just listen. I got it right that time. So to catch everybody up so far, so what we're doing is we're going through the entire MCU and we are tiering them on this very nice looking tier list. So where we are is we're about to start phase 3, and so far in a fail we have Thor: The Dark World. In a third we have The Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2. In the 2-2, Captain America: The First Avenger and Iron Man 3. 2-1, Iron Man, Thor, Avengers: Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. And first is the Avengers, Captain America: Winter Soldier, and Guardians of the Galaxy. So, phase 3, for whatever reason, has almost twice as many films in it than the other ones did. And this is where I think critics started getting really sniffy, because they were like, there's like 4 superhero films all coming out in the same year. What's going on here? But we're going to start off with, I think, a very, very easy one. I would hope a very easy one.
Yeah.
And I'm picking it up now, and I'm taking it straight up there.
Yeah, get it up there.
Captain America: Civil War. Now, when they announced that they were doing Civil War, I did something that I've never done before, and I bought the graphic novel of Civil War, and I read it before I watched the film. Now, granted, it's massively different.
Yes.
And if I'm honest, when I read it, I got quite excited, because I was like, oh, if they do this is going to be great. But what they did with it in the film, I think, is still as good as that, if not better. In the whole idea of the Sokovia Accords. So this idea that because of what happened in Age of Ultron, Tony Stark, and an early interaction that he has with somebody in the film, prompts him to come up with this idea that if they sign up, or if they sign to the Accords, they're basically agreeing that things can be kind of sort of, the blame can be shifted to them, or they need to be held accountable for their actions, essentially. But then Captain America doesn't agree with that, because he thinks it's like you're signing everyone up to the same thing. It's not right. There's not enough sort of freedom in it, and what they're doing.
It's too much red tape. They could be argued. He thinks that the whole point is that they need to be autonomous. They can't be beholden to a nation, because what if the government say, right, not Russia, because they are pretty aggressive at this point. We need you to go into the Middle East to sort things out.
Yeah.
And Captain America will be there like, well, I'm not fighting against people who are just, fighting for their land.
Yeah.
Because someone lied and said, because you want some oil. I'm not doing that.
But it was one of those things, and we're going to get to Thanos in a little bit, where I believed both sides of the argument. I could see the points of both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, on a given day, if I was watching this, I don't know who I'd agree with and who I'd disagree with.
Cap.
Okay.
I am firmly with Cap. I get where Tony's coming from, but they are like, they're not normal, these guys, and they're there to hold each other accountable. Ultimately, if one of them had stepped out of line properly, because let's not forget, this was all started from the fact that Scarlet Witch, for some reason, decided to let Crossbones blow himself up next to a building. She could have sent him any which direction.
Yeah.
And it's like, but yeah, she's a kid. She's new to this. Like, and you could be like, well, why are you taking her out there? But ultimately, it's just, they do need that autonomy. They can't be beholden to a government, because a government has an agenda, like Steve said. They're not meant to have an agenda. They are there to save people. And Steve, I'm with him for one reason in this film especially. He's the only one who takes the time to sit down and read the goddamn thing. Everyone else,
of course he does.
Everyone else is like arguing and bickering over it, and Steve's actually sat there and read it. So I believe him when he comes to it and says, this is wrong.
Give us the abridged version, Steve.
Yeah, like, I believe him when he says that, ultimately. And yeah, it did a very good job introducing a lot of characters.
Yes.
Like, we got our first look at Black Panther. We got our first look at a lot of other stuff to do with Wakanda as well. We got our first look at Spidey.
Mm-hmm.
And that got a lot of people excited because it's like, how the hell are they going to do this?
Yeah. I mean, again, I've watched this one quite recently again, and it's, to me, it doesn't take a wrong foot anywhere.
I just remembered a silly meme, so because like Captain America's there defending Wanda. It's like, leave her alone, she's just a kid. Also Captain America, and it's a still image of him smacking Peter across the face with his shield.
Yeah. I think the breath of fresh air that this film got was the fact that it didn't have to introduce a one-note, one-film villain that ultimately we weren't going to care about. Now, having said that,
we get Zemo.
We do get Zemo.
He was great.
Zemo had the whole sort of side plot.
Yeah.
The main conflict in the film came between two characters that were already very well established and that we cared about.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's why that final fight between Cap, Tony, and Bucky is such, like, I think that's one of the best finale sequences.
It's a great fight.
Yeah.
It's an incredible fight.
But then even the emotional, I can't even describe, like the emotional scene where Rhodey gets shot and then gets paralyzed, like that then was all throughout this film, all throughout this fight scene, they've been making it clear to us as the audience that yes, they're fighting, but they're not wanting to take it too far.
Yeah.
They're not wanting to sort of really hurt each other. But then the minute that actually Tony's best friend is now paralyzed, is like, you've crossed the line now, you know.
Even though Sam's shooting at people repeatedly, and
yeah,
and there's that lovely moment as well where Sam and Bucky are fighting. Spidey.
Yes.
And Spidey is just being a big kid, and Bucky is so confused because he punched him to kill him, and this child catches his hand. He's like, "You have a metal arm, dude! That is so cool!" And wasn't this the one as well where he kisses Peggy Carter's granddaughter, which was weird?
Yeah, and everyone kind of goes, "Huh?"
Yeah, but then it leads to the best reaction where Sam and Bucky are sat in the car, and both of them just give that nod of nice.
All right, all right, mate.
And there's that shot as well where Cap is holding onto the helicopter.
Yes,
which is incredible. Like,
come on, man.
There's just so many good moments. I guess if you're going to criticize the film, there is a bit of an element of they punch for a bit and then they're mates.
Yeah, I mean,
but they're not. It's not perfect after that. They do kind of splinter off.
There is, but then the scene that I really like is when he goes to the raft, and even in the raft, they're all like, "You're an asshole."
Yeah,
you know.
And like Scott Lang says that to him, and Tony's like, "Who are you?" And this is where I think he gets done a bit dirty, Scott Lang, because this is the film where his theme is a little bit wah wah.
Yes.
And it's just like, no, Scott is worthy of this in and of himself.
Like, I thought it was a water truck, and he's thrown a fire truck instead.
And we start getting that thing from has anyone seen that really old film, Empire Strikes Back? It's like, oh God, what are you talking about?
Have you seen the really old film Aliens?
Yeah.
Kids in more movies.
Yeah, this is an incredible film. Yeah. I just like, it's weird. You wouldn't have, like, starting this especially, you wouldn't have said that probably the best, because technically this is a Captain America film, even though it probably should be an Avengers film.
I maintain this. I know what you're going to say. Carry on.
But Captain America probably has the best series of films.
Yes, he does.
Of any of the, like, even including the first one, which is a solid film.
Mm-hmm.
His other two are arguably the best films in the MCU.
100%.
There's only one who we will get to relatively soon, who I think kind of comes close to him.
Yes.
There's only one who, like, in the MCU, there's only one who comes close.
See, I've not actually considered that until you've said it.
Mm.
I was always Cap.
And now Now,
yeah. So Doctor Strange. That's not what we're talking about.
No.
So the next film is Doctor Strange. Scott Derrickson brought in to do this one. Big horror director. I've recently seen The Black Phone, which is his most recent film. Very good. Ethan Hawke is very good in it. Now, I remember this one more for the visuals.
Yeah.
So I actually went back quite recently to see this, and I think at first, to a UK audience, Benedict Cumberbatch's accent and performance is a little bit distracting.
It's a little bit house, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's fallen into it now. I think now is where he's kind of more comfortable, and we're more comfortable seeing him as Doctor Strange, I'd say. Again, gut reaction, I would put this as a 2-2. Where are you going? Up again.
2-1.
So you'd say 2-1.
I think a 2-1 for that. I genuinely, it's a really good, enjoyable film.
I think to be fair, I think it is better than the first Captain America.
I think this is better than Thor, to put it that way.
I wouldn't say that.
I definitely would. I definitely put this above Thor. The other stuff that's in 2-1, I don't think it's as good as that. Okay. But I definitely think it's better than Thor. And if we're saying that Thor is a 2-1, then this is for me.
Right, well, that can be our compromise then, because I'd say Thor is my 2-1, Doctor Strange is your 2-1.
Yeah, it's the first style of this that we've seen. They do really gorgeous visuals throughout it. Yes, it's got the kind of those flaws that I talked about of villain is just an evil version. Mind you, technically Dormammu isn't. And I love that is a fantastic resolution to that fight. I love that conflict. It's hilarious. He basically trolls him into winning. But
then, I really enjoy Mads Mikkelsen.
He's not given an awful lot to do.
Stuart Sturridge for as well.
Whose name I have butchered in the past.
You're not saying it.
Yeah,
Tilda Swinton.
That caused a lot of controversy, though.
It did, but I was pleasantly surprised to see her back again in Endgame. Because I think
she's good, but ultimately, let's be real, the only reason she was cast is because they didn't want to make him a Tibetan monk, because then their Chinese audience would not, it wouldn't be released in China because they don't recognize Tibet. Let's be real.
I don't recognize you, Tibet.
Yeah, and it's just it was one of those decisions that ultimately you shouldn't be under any illusions. They're not in this for the art; they are in this to spend money. And if they can make some art along the way, fine. I think that's why I'm not that big on them. I think I'm always very aware that these are just first and foremost money printers.
Yeah.
And you just get a few too many little decisions like this, where it's we got to appeal to as many people as possible. And, this character didn't do it. Even down to Black Panther being more prominent in Western posters for Endgame. Not Endgame. But Civil War and Endgame probably not Endgame because that was a spoiler.
Infinity War,
Infinity War. Than he was in China. And it's come on. Why are you doing that? But for me, this 2-1, really, really enjoyable film. Gorgeous visuals. I love the way that they incorporated magic in without breaking the rest of the. I think they do really well to do that because it's very easy. It's very easy to introduce magic and for that to just break everything because magic can kind of do what it wants, but they don't do that.
It's that idea of magic and science, isn't it? Well, I think now that it's incorporated in the MCU, they've done it well enough to the point where us as an audience aren't going, well, this is far-fetched now.
Yeah.
We can believe the way that it's kind of been put in. Okay. I think this is the first real misfire.
Guardians 2? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I enjoy this one. It's nowhere near as good as the first one, but I perfectly enjoy this one.
But I'd be going 2-2, if not third.
I'll settle on 2-2 with you then.
Yeah, right.
I'll settle on 2-2. Right. That's fine. But, I don't think. Yeah.
I'll be honest. It made me laugh. you know, and there are bits in it that I like the opening sequence I think is really good, but I think there's so much in it that is just like, it's difficult because you can't not compare it to the original or the first one. So like when you watch it, you're always going, oh, well, I remember the other one. The other one was funnier than this, and it's difficult to try and take it on its own merit. Then,
yeah, but like I love Kurt Russell as Ego. That's incredible. He's incredible. I love his character. I love that he's that line where he's just so callous about I hated having to kill her because he's a god in his own mind, and it doesn't even occur to him that would just break Peter.
Yeah,
I love that. The one big disappointment for me, and this is a really stupid disappointment, because it has arguably one of the best songs of all time on there. The Chain, Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They never get to the good bit of the song in the film. They never get to the like that. You know that final action sequence where there's a bunch of like the gold people ships coming around and groups trying to press the button.
Yeah,
that should have been playing there where Peter and Ego are fighting. That should have played there, and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
But I really like this. I love Taserface and how everyone laughs at his name.
Taserface.
I love Yondu getting his proper press.
Yeah.
That and again that little payoff of his arrow going around.
The arrow scene. Yeah.
And what's the song again? Come a little bit closer. Come a little bit closer to me. Oh yeah. Like it's great. And Southern Nights playing where Rocket's in the forest and he set up all the traps.
Yeah.
Like there's loads of like really good little moments. Yes, it's not as good as the first one, but it's a lot of fun. Mantis is a great new addition as well, who plays off tracks really well.
Yeah.
And it's quite a tight plot as well. Like the big danger with sequels, especially ones like this, is that the plot just goes and it's not focused anymore.
I think that's it. I think it is. It's just like it's almost as if you can tell how long James Gunn spent writing the first one, and the turnaround that he must have had on this one.
Yeah,
you know, I don't think it was as solid and as tight and as put together as the first.
It's not
one.
as tight, but it was still like it could have been a lot worse.
I'm intrigued to see what happens with number 3.
Yeah, I am as well. And like Yondu, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. I'm sorry, his funeral at the end gets me more than a funeral later down the line. It really does. It really does. Yondu's funeral gets me harder, because
I don't know about that.
It does, because he loved his Peter the entire time, and like Sylvester Stallone shows up at the end, is like, yeah, you were a Ravager. I know I said you weren't a Ravager before, but you are a Ravager.
That scene where he first turns up, I watched this the other day, right? That scene where he first turns up, and he stood there, and he's talking to Yondu, and you just get a. And I was like, what is he talking about? What is he asking for?
But then later down, Elizabeth Debicki shows up and they play that orchestral music, and they're rolling out a carpet for her so she doesn't have to walk on the snow. It's great. I love her in that, and her whole thing about how it's just like, she's great. Yeah. She's perfectly alien. I love her. But to be fair, though, I do think 2-2 is fair. I was ready to maybe try and argue a 2-1, but I think 2-2 is actually fair.
I don't think I'd go 2-1.
Yeah, it's a good film.
Right. I'm going to let you start with this one because my opinions are very well known.
I know.
Spider-Man: Homecoming.
If I was it didn't hit me as well as those other firsts did. So my argument would be it's a 2-1, but it's bloody high. But it is that high that if you turned around and vetoed it and said it's going in first, I'd be like, you don't even need to veto it, mate. I'm happy to have it as like a low first. It's a great film.
Well, I'm not going to use a veto then, but it is.
You don't need to veto it. It's a great. It's
first.
It is it's
if John Hughes directed a superhero movie,
I know. It's just
this is what it would be.
About John Hughes that much, but there's so much to this I absolutely unequivocally love. Like, I know what I said before, but Michael. I know what I said before about James Spader, right? But Michael Keaton.
Yes,
Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is just what a boy. Like, to the point where I'm annoyed they haven't come back to him. Because the post-credit scene here...
And let's not include Morbius.
Well, I'm not including Morbius because I've not seen it. And I do feel a morbid curiosity to watch it. I feel like...
Morbius curiosity.
It's morbid time!
No.
But, I do have a real morbid curiosity to watch it. The fact as well that... Whose is it? Is it Sony?
Yeah.
The fact that Sony effectively got trolled into re-releasing it is one of the funniest things.
And then it did nothing.
And then it did they basically got trolled by the internet. They were looking at the optics.
This shit film that got released didn't do anything again.
But they got tricked into it by the internet. It is the best hustle by the internet going on at any point.
I hope it's happy because it's made me do my first swear on the podcast. So
Well, honestly, to getting back to this, it's a great film. Like, my misgiving, we talked about it in the Spider-Man podcast, I just don't like, and they slightly address it in this, I don't like that a lot of the stuff that he's got to deal with in this film is a backlash of Tony.
Yeah.
It doesn't give Spider-Man his own chance to breathe as his own character all that much, which is a bit of a shame. Because when he is finally given that chance, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it gets every element of Spider-Man right in that, because again, we spoke about it on our podcast, like with Andrew Garfield's films, going back to the Uncle Ben responsibility, blah, 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 blah. Whereas this one made the very solid decision to go, we're not having an Uncle Ben. We're not going back to that point because
we're vaguely hinting at an Uncle Ben in Civil War, and they find another way to reword with great power comes great responsibility. It's like, if you can do something to help and you don't, and someone gets hurt, that's on you.
Yeah.
And Tom Holland delivers that, and it's like, wow, yeah, they finally found a way to say it again. Well done.
Yeah. So then, but I think even the Peter as a student stuff, they get right.
Yeah.
Like, he's supposed to be a geeky kid who was just... Because the thing with, like, Andrew Garfield is, like, yes, he was a geeky kid, but, I mean, he's too much of a pretty boy to be a geeky kid.
And he was a skater boy, and he had an aesthetic to it where it was like, he wouldn't be considered a geek. He'd be, like, really cool, and people would like him.
Tom Holland is a geeky kid, but again, too much of a pretty boy. But just the scene where Ned goes...
Are you saying geeks can't be attractive, Adam Farrand?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that at all. But the bit where Ned comes behind him and goes, let's go back to my house and build my Lego Death Star. And it's like, oh yeah, that's what he wants to do.
It is, but at the same time, I think I said this on my last podcast as well, I do think they mistake nerd for geek. I feel like Peter's not meant to be a geek so much as a nerd.
Right, okay.
And it was almost like a way to make him cool and appealing to geek culture, because it's like, oh, he likes his Lego and he likes his Star Wars and his films, but he's a normal guy. No, he's meant to be above average intelligence, and you don't, like, way above.
Yeah.
And you don't really see that. Whereas Andrew Garfield, you get that. He builds his web shooters. He tries them, they mess up. He tries them again, they work. You don't really get that with this Spider-Man, which is a shame, because they give him the opportunity to do it. But again, he leans on Tony Stark a lot for those things.
But I suppose that's the difference of he is lost and he's sort of directionless.
Yeah.
And then Tony just so happens to be there.
And there's the big Jesus metaphor in the middle as well, where he's holding the boat together. And Michael Mando gets underused. Why have we not had more of him?
Mando?
Yeah, he's in Better Call Saul and Far Cry 3. Incredible actor. He's the guy that Adrian meets up with. He's the guy that was hinted that they was going to play Chameleon.
Oh, okay.
Or Scorpion, whatever his name. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah,
it's the first.
you know, I really like this. You know,
Yeah.
I think we're on a bit of a trend here. Thor Ragnarok.
This one puzzles me. You go first.
Where it is and the films that I'm looking at that are in 2-1, I prefer Ragnarok to all of those films. So I would go first.
Yeah. But it's not as good as any of the films that we've put in first. So I'm tempted to put it in 2-1. Because this is the contender for funniest with Guardians.
Yeah.
But
because it is bloody funny.
It is funny.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, it's my birthday.
Yeah.
He's a friend from work.
And what's she? Oh, I always forget her name.
Valkyrie.
Rachel House.
Oh, the minion who's like the prisoners with jobs.
Yeah.
And she's in Soul as well, isn't she?
Yeah, she's in a lot of Taika's films. That's why she's I think it's a low first.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
It's so funny.
This is where Thor like really became. Again, maybe this is probably George's fault because she doesn't see the hype with Ragnarok.
Right.
Shouldn't see it. There is a bit of the stuff with Hela that can get a bit.
Yeah, I think the Hela stuff is like we've still got to do a villain. We've still got to do this bit.
Yeah.
But we've got all this other stuff that's going on.
Which is a shame because I love her intro, where she catches Mjolnir and shatters it. That's incredible.
I love Valkyrie. I think Valkyrie's a great addition.
Yeah, she's funny.
But where's my boy, Korg?
Yeah.
But I mean, it was...
Piss off, Ghost!
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a little rock paper scissors joke for you there, man. Taika Waititi based that on like really polite Maori bouncers that he experienced in his life. I thought, oh yeah, we can just go over there, mate. That'll be fun. No worries.
Oh, you can't lead. This is just a circle. Like,
not a freaky circle. oh, Greek's dead, mate. Oh, he's alive! We're so worried about you.
Go get him, new dog.
Yeah, and it would have been really easy as well for all the comedy to have been happening around Thor. But the fact is, Thor is just as funny, if not funnier.
Yes.
Like that bit where he's like, this one time he turned into a snake and hid from me, and he knew how much I love snakes because he knew how much I love snakes. So I picked up the snake to admire it, and then he turned into himself and he went, ugh! And then he stabbed me. And you just know that he ad-libbed that, and it's like Chris Hemsworth. You are a talented actor. You are arguably one of the most beautiful men on the planet. You are not also allowed to be funny.
Stop being funny, man.
Like that's not fair. That's our domain. The the cave trolls. You don't have your looks. That's not fair. To that. Yeah, because we struggle with that as well. And
it's the one thing I've got, man.
Yeah, and I love Baby Hulk. The fact that he's been the Hulk for long enough that he's actually finding a vocabulary. I think is a really nice touch. I love the callback to his helmet because we haven't seen Thor in his helmet ever because they were like, well, we're not having him in that. He looks stupid after the first film. But they actually have him in like a version of his helmet.
His helmet in Thor Love and Thunder looks stupid. Just throw that out there. So I think easy one, and I'm assuming the next two are going to be easy as well. Oh, is this the first veto? Is this where we go?
Technically, they're in the wrong order down there, by the way, as well, lads.
Why?
Ant-Man and the Wasp should be in between the two Avengers films.
It is?
It's not on my screen.
Is it not?
No, you got...
I've got...
wait. Oh, sorry. Oh, the next two. Oh, I misread one. Okay,
yeah. There we go. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Still,
You shut your face, man.
Still,
Black Panther.
It's 2-1 for me. It's 2-1. I'm sorry. Like, it's like Hamilton. This is the Hamilton of the. It's the Hamilton of the MCU films.
that I feel like that's gonna like
right.
You're gonna get a reputation for the things
right.
that you're
Fine.
referring to as the same thing.
Yeah, but look, objectively, from that standpoint of it being like representation for Black people the world over, this is one of the most important films out there, and I'm not going to have a go at it for that. Like, if that's what we're marking it on, then fine, it's the first. As a film, it's very old school Marvel. We have the same thing again of the villain is ultimately just the good guy it's the same suit as the good guy, but again, like I just don't. It's quite a dated story. Like, the only good bit is that Killmonger has a bit of a good point in that why aren't Wakanda using this to help people the world over? And
veto.
Fine.
I can't, because I just think it's one of the most solid films that they've done.
But that's it. It's solid. It doesn't jump out to me at all.
I don't mean that in the kind of like, this is a good film. This is solid. I mean, as in all the way through. It holds your attention. It does a lot of different things that manage to hold your attention all the way through. It makes you care about a country, not just characters, a country that at that point, yes, we'd seen once. Yes, we'd have references to once, but it actually builds the world of Wakanda at that point, and then it just fits straight into the MCU to the point where they do it here, and then our cue in Infinity War is just the African drums to go, oh, I know where we're going now. It's Wakanda, and it does it so well. And I think it's such a well-made film, and I think the performances just down the line are fantastic.
What are those, Adam Farrand?
What
are those?
Yeah, right. But it was an out-of-date meme, right? And
with an out-of-date plot, like, it's just
yeah. Well, there's the first veto.
You've already vetoed it. So
yeah,
square up sod all I can do anyway. But it's just, yeah. I'm telling you, this is. I would rather watch Ant-Man than this.
Oh no!
I would. I'd rather watch Ant-Man than this. I'd rather watch Doctor Strange than this. I would. Like,
yeah, but Boseman, Wright, Bassett, Nyong'o, Kaluuya, Jordan, Freeman, Serkis, so many great performances in it. Oh,
the story lets him down.
Winston Duke in this as well. Oh.
Yeah, Duke Winston's pretty funny. Right. We are vegetarians.
Yeah.
Angela Bassett as well.
Bassett's a god. Bassett's a god. Infinity War.
Get it up there.
Just thank you. Get it
up there. Get it up there. It is, but my controversial opinion on this, it is the best Avengers film. It is.
Right. I know that when we did our top 10, I put Endgame in the top 10.
But and this was an honorable mention.
Yeah, Endgame's in the top 10 because of everything that feeds into it. And it's the sort of, it's the end game of everything that you put in and and what you get out of it. I think I'm with you. I think I prefer Infinity War to Endgame.
This is a much better, like that. I stand by what I said before about James Spader having the best performance. This is probably the best written villain.
Yeah.
In an MCU film, in Thanos. In this, like, again, you can pick apart his plot. Why doesn't he just snap his fingers and make the universe twice as big, or make people require half as much? But fine, he's been driven to it, and like whatever. And like I kind of wish they'd included the angle for why he does it in the comics, because isn't he trying to impress Death? Because Death is a sexy lady in the MCU.
I bought Infinity Gauntlet or the Infinity whatever. I've not read it, so
I'm pretty sure, like, because Deadpool has a flirty relationship with Death because there's a tragedy behind it because he can't die.
Right.
So, like, when he's near death, he gets to meet Death and they do freaky stuff. And and Thanos is in love with Death. Nice. But, so in order to impress Death, he was like, I want to kill half the universe. Why not? Which is kind of funny. I don't remember his henchmen all that much. They've all got silly names like Scroobius Pip and stuff like that. Like
one was called Scroobius Pip.
But
yeah, I'm with you on that.
It's that opening is horrifying. Like, because it's
but this is what I was about to say. So, how do you make a villain believable to an audience? You have him batter Hulk.
Yeah, you have him batter Hulk having just committed genocide.
Yeah, and then kill Loki.
Yeah, and like he's torturing Thor. Thor looks like he's in agony, and it is that moment where he just shrugs off all his armor and just goes fist for fist with Hulk, and it's that's hilarious.
They had me hook, line, and sinker at the end. Because I cried because I could not believe what I was seeing. I could not believe that he managed to do it, and then they killed off because all the way through the film they're going, with a snap of my fingers, half of the universe is gone, right?
Yeah,
and you just assume that because you're watching these people, it's coincidentally going to be the half of the universe that we don't see, that aren't Avengers, that aren't whatever. And that these aren't going to be affected. When actually, no, it doesn't work like that. It's literally half of these characters are going to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, Jesus Christ. It had me instantly. And the really morbid end credits as well. They're just all black and white text. None of the fancy, with Ragnarok, you get the funky music and the space graphics and all that kind of stuff. This is directed by Anthony and Joe Russo. Done. And then you get the end credit sequence where Fury goes and he manages to beat Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was so happy when I went to go and watch this because I just thought, what a brilliant film.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was absolutely incredible. I mean, again, you can pick it apart a little bit, Steve saying, why did Steve get rid of his beard? Yeah. Bearded Captain America is the thing that I need more in my life.
I've got a bearded Captain America Funko Pop.
Yeah.
Purposely because Infinity War Steve, I think, is the best one.
But you get fun little things like he manages to hold Thanos back for any length of time when Thanos absolutely tanked Thor and Hulk with less Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
But and there's a little thing as well, Steve says to Vision, "We don't trade lives."
Yes.
And then sends the people of Wakanda to their deaths.
I teach a couple of bits of this for when we do sound and we do motifs. So, obviously the Guardians, Rubberman plays, and I go, "Who are we about to see?" And the kids go, "Guardians of the Galaxy," and they know straight away. But the bit where Vision and Scarlet Witch get saved by Falcon, Black Widow, and then Steve steps out of the shadow, and it plays best entrance.
Which is really cool, but the notion that those two need saving.
Well, let it happen.
They're the two most powerful Avengers.
Yeah, Vision got stabbed. Vision got stabbed. Vision got stabbed, and he's not dead yet. So Scarlet Witch doesn't fully know her power yet.
Yeah, he was very full. He was very full Paul Bettany face at that point as well.
He was, yeah. After looking in the kebab shop.
Yeah.
Right. Potential dip here.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, you can tell Edgar Wright wasn't involved in this one.
I think it's a very unmemorable film.
Yeah, and they do that thing that I hate when they do it. So you know how in the first film, despite the fact they had little to no chemistry, they end up as a couple in the end?
Yeah.
And then by the big time this film has begun, they have broken up. And we have to see them get back together again. It's like, show them as a couple.
Each other.
Yeah, show them as a couple. Like Jurassic World did the same thing. We're together by the end of the first film, but we've broken up by the beginning of the second one.
Well, because actually, right, having said that, you've just reminded me, when we went and watched Jurassic World Dominion, have you seen Dominion yet?
No, I don't think I'd want to, really, if I'm honest.
I think people have been a bit sniffy with it, right, in that it's a Jurassic World film. There is a point in it, though, where I was like, where are the bloody dinosaurs? Bring the dinosaurs back. But at the start of the film, we see Chris Pratt we see Bryce Dallas Howard, and I had to sort of say to myself, are they together or are they not together? And then he puts his arm around her, and I'm like, oh, they're together.
Doesn't Laura Dern say slid into my DMs at one point?
Yes, she does. But Jeff Goldblum is very funny in it. Like Amy could not stop laughing, and I was like, what's so funny? And she was like,
other than being in a film where you just have him sat at a desk with a beard looking all serious, Jeff Goldblum is a delight. So
yeah, he was,
as he proved in his Thor film. Like, he is easily the best thing about that film as well.
Still doing sexy Ian Malcolm, hands on hips,
black
obviously. Shirt unbuttoned all the way down.
And it's a shame that this is unmet, because there are some individual aspects of it that I love. I love the ghost. I love the concept of the ghost.
On Ant-Man now.
I love that. You've got Lawrence Fishburne in there, which is always great. Lawrence Fishburne, some Walter Goggins as well. Yeah. Love me some Walter Goggins. He needs to be in more. Fantastic actor, creepy guy in terms of how he acts, but like fantastic actor.
Yeah.
But it is just a bit of a meh.
I just think it's very unmemorable. There's not a lot that I remember about it.
I don't remember why Hank Pym's on the run.
Yeah, no.
I don't know why. There's too many heists going on at once.
One thing that got a reaction from me was the end credit sequence where they blipped.
Right, and that's
then I was like,
I think that's what annoyed me as well, because I think it was just before we were going to watch, because we didn't go to see this. So it was just before. I think literally the day before, or even like the morning of, when that night we were going to go and see Endgame.
Right. Okay.
And we were like, oh, can we miss this, or do we need to see it? And like, no one was getting back to it. I don't think. What year did this come out?
2018.
So I won't have been working with you at the time, will I?
Don't think so.
I don't think I was. So I would because de facto I would have gone to you and said, look, do we need to see this?
I would have said yeah. By the way,
I don't think you do, though. I think
I'm the person who was really umming and ahhing about Eternals before I watched No Way Home. Ended up doing it, and then was like, well, I didn't need to, but I'm kind of glad I did. Okay, apologies, people. My laptop wasn't plugged in, and it's just gone. It was plugged in, but it turns out it wasn't plugged in where it should have been.
It wasn't plugged into the wall, basically.
Yeah. I think it's my little Mac brick thing. Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to try and remember where we were and catch up. So I was mentioning Eternals. Now, I went to watch Eternals before Spider-Man purposely because I was like, I need to see everything in chronological order. So that's why I went to go and watch that. But Ant-Man and the Wasp, then, I think I'd go third.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm so glad all this is still here. Like,
Right. Where did we put everything?
Oh, crap, it's gone. Captain Marvel. Now, I had to do Marvel twice because I was feeling I don't usually get hay fever, but for whatever reason, around this time, I got hay fever for the first time, and I didn't know how to cope with it. So my mate was like, "I've got an antihistamine, but it's also got like cocodamol in it." So
you're going to space.
I was like, "Oh, I'll be all right." And I was the sleepiest I've ever been in a cinema before. I was just slumped in my chair.
Tell you what, it's a good job you don't bloody drive.
Not really understanding what it was that I was looking at. I was like, "There's a ginger cat every now and again."
Yeah, Goose.
Why is Nick Fury there now? Where are we? What are we doing?
Why has he got hair?
Yeah. So like at the end, Amy and like my mate were both like, "Oh, it's all right, weren't it?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know how much I've seen of it. I don't know if I actually fell asleep at one point." So I went back again. I thought this was fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't think it's bothering the 2-1 crowd.
No.
I'd say 2-2.
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's just good. It's just good. It was a very typical one of those, a bunch of people are going to review bomb it because they don't like
I didn't understand that, though. Yeah.
It's just sexist pigs. And then you have people coming out to bat for it way too strong. It's like, it's not. I love Ben Mendo in it.
Yeah. I mean, but he's good in everything, isn't he?
Yeah, he's pretty good in everything, even in bad films like Rogue One. He's really good.
Yeah.
Like,
I wouldn't say Rogue One's a bad film.
I wouldn't say it's a good one.
Ooh, right, there's another one.
But yeah, it's perfectly fine. You've got a nice little slight. One thing I don't like though, and I get why they did it ultimately, because she's on Earth looking for Skrull, isn't she?
Yes.
And there's that scene where she's on a bus, and in the advert, in the first trailer, she just looks the old woman in the face and then just clocks her in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And then they were obviously like, oh, we can't have our hero doing that. So in the following trailer, they showed that same old woman leaping about the bus. Yeah. It's like, oh, she's obviously not normal. Don't worry, she's still a hero. It's like, oh, fine.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a really sweet. I'm pretty sure that was either Stan Lee's last cameo, or
well, he did the Endgame one, didn't he?
Yeah, but that was like the first cameo that he did after he died. Effectively, that was the first one to be released. Sorry, after he died.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah,
it was actually him rehearsing his lines for Mallrats on the bus on the way to his audition, which was really sweet. Yeah, it's a nice little time capsule of the 90s. You know, they crashed into a blockbuster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's all right.
It's all right. I'm not really sure what her powers are. I liked the use of "Come as You Are" as Annette Bening is getting into her head.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Let's have a bit of a dance.
Yeah, that was a bit. I think that was where we start to see the negative impact of Guardians. Oh, let's have a fun, quirky soundtrack. And it's like, no, you're not that film.
I mean, it has a decent one. There was a couple of songs that I picked off it. There's an Elastica song in there somewhere as well.
Yeah, you got is it Gwen Stefani? Yeah. Oh, I'm just a girl. It's like, no. Stop trying to be Guardians. You're not Guardians.
Right. Is Endgame just going straight to the top?
It's a first. It's not as good as Infinity War, but it's still a first.
It's just that culmination of like. The thing that I've really, really enjoyed with this, though, is that they did the marketing perfectly.
Yeah.
They didn't spoil anything.
You didn't know it was going to be a time heist.
Yeah. And I just thought, I'm so glad that I know nothing going into this.
And
it's just a culmination of you having watched these films for, at that point, 10 years, you know.
I remember I was a bit disappointed ultimately with Thanos loses all of his personality in this film. All of it.
Yeah, because he's not Thanos, is he? Yeah.
I know, but he becomes a generic villain blob, and it's like we really grew to like this character from the previous film because it's like, oh, he's actually making points. Like there's little moments where Peter's getting ready to shoot Gamora.
Yeah.
And he goes through with it and pulls the trigger, but bubbles come out. And Thanos, like a dad, because he's Gamora's dad, is like, I like him.
Yeah.
It's like just what that, you know, it's what you're hopefully going to be saying about a young man in about 15 years' time for Ruby.
Oh yeah.
But, yeah, just like I like him. But
there's a point where like Scarlet Witch drops down and says, "You took everything from me," and he just I don't even know you are.
Yeah, that's a great line, sure, but it's just like, yeah. But there's little moments like, there's one moment that gets me personally. It's because they play it for laughs. What happens to Thor? Yeah, well, that's kind of a sad story. And like when he goes back in time and he sees his mom,
yeah,
that gets me.
I think the fat Thor thing. I thought about this when we were watching Thor: Love and Thunder because obviously they go back and veto it in Thor: Love and Thunder. I was just like, did he actually need to do that? Did they need to make him fat? Like, I kind of understand what they were getting at, but was it a necessity?
I imagine there might have even been an element of Chris Hemsworth saying, I'm sick of getting into ridiculous shape every time I do one of these films.
Yeah, but he wasn't actually fat.
No, but it's like he can just wear, you know, rather than having to worry about his physique, he can just wear a fat suit and be done with it.
Yeah,
There's an element of that, and I think he did need to be a bit of a mess for when he ran into his mum.
Yeah,
as well.
fair enough. Yeah,
and like his mum sees through it, and just because, yeah, that scene, that idea of he goes back in time, it's just before his mum died, and he gets to like have one last chat with her, like that. Hits me quite heavy, obviously. Right, okay. And like every time I go back and watch that, I'm like, no, not gonna cry this time.
Not again.
Not again. And Georgia has to get ready and give me a hug every time we get to that bit of the film where he's like, I'm so totally from the future. Like, oh God. And yeah, it is really cathartic. Like, I love the bit where Mjolnir goes to Steve and Thor is just like, yes, because he's really excited. We never talked about as well in Age of Ultron, the lifting contest where they're all trying to lift Mjolnir.
Oh yeah.
That's a really funny scene, and like Steve gets it to budge a little bit, and Thor actually looks terrified.
Well, are you, in terms of the two sides of the theory, are you on board with he could actually lift it and he knew he could, but he was being Steve and he was being polite?
No.
Right, okay.
No,
he wasn't worthy at that point.
He just wasn't fully, like, he wasn't worthy at that point. Like,
right.
He hadn't earned the mantle of, he hadn't done what he'd done. Like, he'd led against an alien invasion, sure, but he wasn't like the symbol of hope for humanity at that point.
Right, okay.
Whereas in Endgame, he became that. He got everything together in the end, and he led it. And there's that nice little throwback to the argument that Tony and Steve had in the first Avengers film, where Tony says to Steve, "You're a lab experiment gone wrong. Everything special about you came out of the bottle." Not true, because he's got Mjolnir. Like, everything special about him is how good he is. And Steve said in return to him, it's like, you're never the guy to like lay down your life. You're never the guy to like dive on the grenade. And he does literally that. Yeah. And have you seen the thing as well where someone points out that he's the only one that doesn't scream out when he's got all of the stones?
No.
So like Thanos gets all the stones in the gauntlet and screams in agony.
Yeah.
Hulk does the same thing.
Yeah.
When he's wearing them all, no scream. And it's something like I can't remember how they tried to word it, but it's like Thanos and the Hulk are obviously really, really strong. They don't know what it's like to be weak, and the Infinity Stones make you feel like that. Tony knows exactly what that feels like.
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect him. And he gets his "I am Iron Man." Yeah, that's a great. And the fact that he's smiling as well when he's dying, because he just knows.
Yeah,
he's done it.
Well, it's like, so last year they released the Infinity Gauntlet Lego set.
Yeah.
So the gold glove. So I built it, got it, it's downstairs. Next week, as we record this, they're releasing the Nano Gauntlet. So exactly the same thing, but it's the Iron Man sort of hand of it. And I said to Amy, I said, I'm getting that. And she was like, but is it not exactly the same as the other thing, but gold? I was like, yeah. But red. I was like, yes. But I want both.
I want them to build a left-handed one so I can have one for each hand.
I want an Infinity War and I want an Endgame. And right, last one then for Phase 3. Spider-Man Far From Home. I think I'm going to be more higher on this than you are.
Go on.
I would say 2-1.
I'm vetoing it. It's a 2-2.
Oh!
I'm vetoing it.
Okay.
It's a 2-2. It's not. You're telling me you would rather watch that than Ant-Man?
Yeah,
and
I would.
Iron Man.
Yeah, I would.
Like all of those films. It's not as good.
I would, if I'm looking at the 2 ones, right, I would go Ultron, Thor, Far From Home, Iron Man, Strange Ant-Man.
I've not felt any compunction to go back to Far From Home.
But you know what it is? Honest, and again, this is saying things that ultimately don't make the film a good film. I bloody love Jake Gyllenhaal.
I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he's wasted in it. I will
agree with you the reason why I'm not saying it's a first is because there was a massive rug pull.
Yeah.
And that annoyed me.
And it became, again, we're dealing with the fallout of Tony Stark.
Yeah, because...
over some imagined slight. It's a pathetic bit of villain motivation for what could be a really good character.
As someone who grew up with a Spider-Man cartoon, I was looking forward to seeing Mysterio.
Yeah.
And then you end up with a hodgepodge.
It's just, yeah. They could have, and the sequence where he ends up getting him run over by a train is great. They could have really lent on that a lot more, and they don't.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just very memorable. And it's even stuff like, they gave him a black Spider-Man suit. That's the cynical money-making decisions coming out of me again. It's like, let's get a different Spider-Man toy out there.
Yeah.
And like, there's plenty about it that I do really like. I love Ned's holiday romance. We talked about that during the podcast.
Yes, yeah, we did. Yeah.
That's one of the funniest things I've seen in a kids' film. Like, the fact that they have matured, like they got to talking and they are these lovely souls, and then at the end of the holiday, that's it. They're done. So, I don't like what they did with MJ in this. I think she's a completely different character from the first film, and they do a lot to bridge the gap in the next film. But she is completely different. She's not aloof with anyone. She's just like your weird, I'm quirky kind of girl, and that's her whole character, which is a shame because Zendaya is a fantastic actress. You could have given her a whole lot to do other than just be the apple of Peter's eye. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I'm with you. I've fallen into a well of looking at the films that are coming up, and they're not even there yet. Right. End of phase 3. Got 6 to do for phase 4, which is pretty much all of phase 4 apart from the new Black Panther, which obviously we can't do. So thank you again for watching, for listening. We will be back next time for the 4th and final installment of this. It's taken up all of our summer, Ollie.
We're slaving away.
What a sacrifice that we make.
Yeah. Well, just make sure your laptop's plugged in.
It's fine. I've just made sure that the other video's fine. I think it is. So yeah, we're all right. I hope. If there isn't any other videos, it's because this one ballsed up. So yeah, we'll get to it. As usual, go to Offload use the code Farrand for 15% off your order. Stay safe, look after each other, and we will see you in phase 4.